Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Menher 2, a safe place where men get to share their truth. I am your host, Trey Kearney. This is brought to you by hashtag Coffee with Tea. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have an excellent guest today, and you guys know I get so excited every Monday because it's Man Convo Monday, and I get to talk to an intelligent Black man who gets to share his truth from his education, his experience, and we just rock and roll from there. So today I have Jamel Holley, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself because listen, I have his bio in front of me, and I must say I'm very impressed. He's a young man who's doing a lot for his city, and I'm just gonna bring Jamel in. Good morning, Jamel.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday to you. How you doing?
I am good. So I want you to just tell the people what you do right now, and then we're gonna get into everything else.
Sure. I'm a current state legislator. State Assemblyman. I represent District 20 here in New Jersey, and that is part of Union County. And my district includes the towns of the borough of Roselle, where I was the former mayor, township of Union, the city of Elizabeth, which is one of our largest cities here in the state of New Jersey, and also the township of Hillside.
Listen, y'all, I get really excited for my brothers, especially my younger brothers. So I get really impressed because there's a lot of negativity out in this world about Black young men. So when I have brothers on who are former mayors at your age, it is impressive. When I have brothers who have master's degrees and all kind of other things, I got to shout that out. So let's get right into it. So my first question with all my brothers who come on here is tell me a little bit about your blueprint. Tell me a little bit about your mother and your father.
So I had a very unique upbringing, Trey. I was born to an unwed teenage mom. My mom was 15 years old when she actually had me, and she turned 16 the next day. So me and my mom were a day apart. So she was a very young a mother, but I had the opportunity and privilege she had backup, right? So I had a great grandmother who was in law enforcement. So my grandmother actually raised me and my two brothers. I think my brother's going to be on with you in a couple weeks. But my mom is still with us. I lost my dad at 38 years old several years ago due to pancreatic cancer. And my mom, she's great. I mean, she's still a single mom. She's now helped raising our girls in the family. My four nieces, who are tremendous young ladies. We have three here in New Jersey and one in Texas. When my brother went to go play for the Dallas Cowboys, they all moved down there. So everybody is mostly in Texas, but just a few of us up here in New Jersey. But my mom's awesome. She had a great backup with my grandmother. My grandmother was very strong. She raised us like real men, and taught us, the ins and outs of life very early on. And as you know, in law enforcement, she was very tough. And, we had the opportunity to learn what to do and how to interact with police and law enforcement officers at a very early age. And so that's part of like my life story as I represent others, and particularly the Black male, because it's been this systemic issue with interaction with the police and males. And so, I try to institute laws. I try to engage in our young people to not go through that prison to pipeline type of system that we all know that exists. And part of my role as a legislator is I try to cut away a lot at those barriers so that we can really be real productive citizens of this state.
Excellent. Yes, your grandmama. I love it.
Yeah, she was the real deal. She was the real deal.
I bet. Listen, my mom was the real deal, and she was, she wasn't in law enforcement, but she could have been. But I love it that, you grew up with your mom. So let's just talk about that dynamic just a little bit. To have a 15-year-old mom, how was it to grow? Because you grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So was it like your mom was almost like your sister for a while, or like an auntie?
Yeah, I mean, it was my mom. It was always that dual respect, right? That was your mama. It was, yeah, it was almost like we were growing up together. We were close. We shared a lot of the same interests, a lot of the same music. We would go to concerts together. Like it was like my partner, like in crime. Like that's my mom. She took me to several concerts. It was just unique, right? It was unique. I was fortunate. I knew that she didn't play around either, but I also knew that my grandmother was the backup and just reinforced what not to do and what to do. But I still interact with my mom. Like I mentioned, she's in Texas with my other brother, and she's helping raising my nieces who are both in Texas and New Jersey. So it's pretty cool. I mean, my mom is still here. I'm so fortunate. There's so many others who have lost their mom, unfortunately.
Yes.
But we're just trying to just have a good time in life and share good memories and share future memories and things that we're trying to do. And, you know, she's not political at all. So she asks a lot of questions about politics. She doesn't understand it that often, but she knows when she sees those attacks sometimes. My mama, if she was in New Jersey some of those times, I don't know, some of those folks might be in a little trouble, but she gets it. She understands I'm in the business of trying to help people, but she also knows the other side. We just have to, you know, live through it and get through the challenges at most point.
That's awesome. That's right. If mama was in New Jersey, I'm a Jersey girl. I'm a Jersey mom. Like, listen, don't be messing with my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, why they saying that about you? Like, you know, because our moms know us tried and true, no matter what other people say. And, you know, politics, the one thing I don't do is politics and religion on my show. So this is not like a political platform. This is Menher too. And to show people that Black politicians are men too. Like they are human beings first, and then they're politicians. So, you know, sometimes people need to just step off just a little bit when you out eating. I'm a man out here eating now. Don't ask about no politics. I'm with my friends and my family right now, so fall back. So
right, that's often true. When I'm out sometimes and having dinner, there are people who do approach the table to talk about some things. Or most often, if I'm at a local store or the local dry cleaners, you know, the tree needs cut still, or you know, my sidewalk on my street, and I'm just trying to get groceries and food, and you know, but that's public life, right? So you have to accept it when it comes, and but I try to get in the store and do my thing and try to get out, but you do run into some folks, but it's good sometimes interacting with people. I love interacting with people anyway, but you know, it's public life, so you gotta just deal with it.
I know, yes. So this is a question I love to ask too, since we are on politics right now, and your mother don't understand. You know, like I don't understand this, so I'm gonna stay away from it. If it wasn't politics, what would Jamel be doing?
You know, growing up, I thought I would want to be a lawyer. Now I'm making laws.
Oh, excuse me.
At one point, I thought I would be an R&B singer. I used to sing back in the day when I was a teenager. Did a little recording in the studio. But you know, God has His way, right? He leads you on this journey, and I found myself not wanting to practice law, but I found a unique journey in life where I'm actually making laws. I have over 80 bills that have been signed into law by 2 governors. I've been a mayor, been a council president, been a councilman at large.
Wow.
So I found my way through this political journey. It was very unique. You know, I started early on being a staff member, chief of staff to a deputy minority leader in the state legislature. And it was like, you know, this path that God just led me on, and it's been great ever since. I love my community of the borough of Roselle. I love the other communities that I represent. As I mentioned to you, the other 3 towns in the beginning of the conversation. I just love community, and that's sort of like how I was raised too. Going back to, you know, your question on how was it raised by your mom, but being raised by a single parent grandparent too, it was a lot of the community people that helped out as well, our principals, my teachers, the crossing guards, the janitors who you interact with, who take you underneath their wing to show you different things. It was a whole multitude of people. You know, Roselle's the first village ever lit by Thomas Edison, and we call ourselves the first in light, first in flight. And so it was this village that actually helped raise me as well, the borough of Roselle. So many people had a major impact on my life and helped me along the way to be the person who I am today.
The village, listen to the parents out here, because we have a lot of young parents. We have a lot of crime going on with our young people. We are, and I can ask you this question, do you think that we are losing our youth or have lost our youth because of the lack of the village?
Trey, this is so timely that you asked that question. Just this weekend, many on the audience may know that I'm running for state senate for the district here that I represent now as a state assemblyman. And you know, this weekend we did 3 block pop-ups where we just popped up on blocks in Elizabeth and sort of the urban centers of Elizabeth, 3 locations where there is high crime and a lack of activities for our youth. And so we popped up on Friday for a few hours, then we had a day on Saturday, and then we had a day yesterday. All great days, right? All the weather was great. The community came out. But for me, in particularly on Friday, I was at one location. And as I'm interacting with the kids and talking to people and talking to some parents, but the youth, I got in my car after that particular event. And it was so humbling, but it was like a pierce in my heart because I was walking around this complex and I was trying to engage in our teens, registering them to vote. Some registered to vote and some didn't have an interest at all. And it pained me because here I am as one of them, right? I'm a young Black male, they're a young Black male or a young Black female. Some were interested in registering to vote, but there was some that you just couldn't touch. And I tried and I stayed multiple times trying to talk to the young people, and it just wasn't connecting because what I realized is that the teaching is not in the homes as well. And it pained me because as I'm going around the complex, there's no equipment for playground, there's no basketball hoops, there's no fields. There was absolutely nothing. So you had the 2 and 3 year olds playing with the 10 and 11 year olds, interacting with the 15 and 18 year olds. Then you had the 21 year olds, and then you had the 30 and 50 and 55 year old parents all in one parking lot, all in one area. So this is daily life for them. Like, so there's no, when I was growing up, you know, if the adults were over here, the kids couldn't come over here. If the teens were over here, you couldn't go over here. But you had this one particular area where everybody was just in one area. And I got in the car and I said to myself, I said, we've got some work to do in our urban centers. And it pained me because here it is in one of the districts that I live in, that this is actually going on. You read about it, you see about it in other places, but it really struck me in the heart. And I said, you know what, we got to change this. And I guess it was part of my journey on this campaign as state senate that said, you needed to be here. You needed to see this. You needed to talk to these folks. You needed to engage with these youth, because for me, what it does is tells me I have a lot of work to do. I can't depend, and our neighborhoods can't depend on other elected officials to do it for them. If they were going to do it for them, it would have been done. So it's left up to us as Black Americans and Black elected officials to reach back into our communities, to continue to engage them, because there's certain interests, right? The kid yesterday is not the kid today. There's a different kind of kid now. And we have to ensure that we provide resources for them or opportunities for them so that they find their way and have a clear path on their journey of where they want to go. So it was This weekend was very great. I mean, it was a teachable moment for me. Yeah, we had the DJ. Yeah, we had the food. Yeah, we had the music. Everybody was out having a good time, interacting. It was almost like, you know, everybody was stuck in for a year, so this was like the coming out party on the block. And we just popped up on the block. We found the section, popped up on the block. I mean, for a couple of hours. Sometimes we stayed longer than a couple of hours because the community just kept coming out. But for me, it was a teachable moment. And I heard so many ideas from the young people.
Yes.
You know, some of them had business plans, you know, the youth, some of them, you know, the 30-year-olds had some ideas on of some type of programs and initiatives. And for me, I think that that's important that they have the ability to come up and talk to me about it and share their ideas. And for me, it's about, okay, how do I help this person with those resources to make their dream a reality? It was a teachable moment for me this week, and I'm glad you asked that question.
I'm so glad you're out there. They call it boots on the ground. Like, so many people are not going into the communities and not engaging with the youth to see where they're not engaged. Why are they not engaged? And I love it that you are bridging that gap, because I'm 51. My children are 11, 21, and 26, all boys. And there's this gap between communication with us, because no, we was raised like this. I don't know what you're talking about. And they like, no, you know, times have changed. And there is a level of, we have to meet somewhere in the middle, but there's also a level of, like your grandmother, standing our ground on what is right, but to do it in a way that is inviting to the youth so they don't run from us. So I'm glad that you're out there with the DJ. The pop-up is fly. Like, who pops up on you with a DJ and, you know, some recreation? That is awesome. So I want to talk about, because the time be going so fast, I can't stand it. But I want to, and
we could talk for hours. We could talk for hours.
Yes, you know, so I want to go into education, because you have a master's. You have been the youngest chief of staff in the state of New Jersey. You became the youngest councilman in Union County at 25. Bid for councilman at large. You were elected as the youngest mayor ever elected in the boroughs. The appointment made Holley the first African American to represent the district in New Jersey. So like, those are like accolades. And, you know, sometimes people don't want to hear the accolades, but I believe in people understanding that I came from a 15-year-old mother who made a decision to have a baby at 15 and came through that with a grandmother in a village that taught me this, but I didn't use my obstacles as a crutch. Why was education so important to you? Because listen, I didn't like school. I'm gonna say that. And my niece got a master's from NYU. She's 36 now, and she loves to learn. I said, "What you gonna do now? You got your master's." She said, "Well, listen, I'm about to get my PhD." I said, "Oh no, okay." But why was education? It's too much for me. Why was education, and why is education so important, not only to you, but to our communities, to our youth, to our adults? Like, it's never too late to get a degree. It's never too late to start that business. So talk about education a little bit.
Yeah, that was instilled in me real early. My grandmother had no other way. You were going to get an education. And one of the things she instilled in us early on was that they could take a lot of things away from you, but they can't take your education away from you. So she was drilling down on education. Education was number one top priority, no, without nothing else. Like, you were going to school, you were going to get an education, you were going to go to college, and you're going to get it done, and we're going to rock the whole way through. So that was just instilled. It was like there was no room for movement there for me at all. I had no way of challenging that at all. So that was instilled in us. But again, I had that reinforcement in high school, right? Because I come from that village. So it was teachers, it was principals, it was advisors who just, you know, it was this village that just closed in on you and said, this is a kid who we're going to help make a difference. And we're going to guide you, and we're going to help you every step of the way to get you to completion. And so that happened in high school. And I had the same advisors who helped me as I was entering into college. And we got through college together, and the same advisors that helped me get through college helped me get through graduate school. So the village never left me up until my master's degree, and they still advising me till this day on some of the issues I confront with in our community or policy issues. So the village is still around me. The advisors are still around me. I've lost some, unfortunately, over the years, but the ones that are still here are still holding on to make sure that at whatever level and whatever I'm trying to achieve, that they're there for me. And that's honest advising, right? Because you get people who come in and out of your lives to try to advise you on certain things. But when you have someone who knew you from the root and knows who you are, that's honest advising. And so from that concrete home that I came out of, with that concrete lessons from my grandmother, out into the community with my teachers and advisors in school, they've been with me every step of the way. But I reinforce that to my nieces as well and to other young people, is that no matter what you get involved with, or no matter where you take on your journey, your education is most important. And I wasn't a big fan of school. I was not a big fan of school, but it was just something we had to do. And it was forced onto us. And it's not like I could have got away with it, but it was just something that we just had to do. And it was the best decisions that I believe that I made in my life, that going to college and going to graduate school, because it's helped me a great deal. And I, talk to my nieces and other young individuals the importance of education, because it is important.
Yeah,
it is important.
It is, yes. And our youth is so different nowadays. So do we need to, as parents, as citizens, as people in our communities, do we need to get back into schools? Because I know, a lot of teachers in inner cities operate out of fear, right? Back in the day, our teachers would be like, excuse me, like, I will yoke you up on this locker
Yeah,
and
have permission from my grandmother.
take you to your grandmother.
She would say, call me afterwards, and I'll reinforce when I get there.
Right.
Yeah, like parents, I had that, right? So my grandmother was very involved in our education. She knew all of our teachers, and she gave them the responsibility that if he cuts up, or if my brothers cut up, straighten them out, and then call us when it's done. I see less of that recently, where you don't have that parent interaction along with the teachers, and it's something that is missing.
Right.
And parents shouldn't know if their child is failing at the end of the marking period.
Right.
It should be, how's the first quarter of the first marking period? There's quarters within the marking period. So, that's how I was raised, and that's how parents and or guardians should be doing that now, because it kept me in line. It kept me in line. It kept my brothers in line, and we do the same thing with our nieces. Is that we know their teachers. We interact with them. We ask questions, and so I think if you have that type of involvement, I think the child is less lost in the educational system. If you have that unique partnership, because this education is really a partnership with the educational community and parent community. And but you have some amazing parents though, like most parents are, like most parents are involved. You have good parent groups, especially here in District 20. We have great parent groups that are involved, but sometimes, you do have those unfortunate situations. And I think for us as a community, we need to be those resources to help those parents, because, the mother today is sometimes working 2 and 3 and 4 jobs.
Right.
So it's really hard to have them work, try to keep the doors open, try to, put food on the table, and then deal with the educational piece. So it is incumbent upon us as a community that if we do see that child somehow going off into the wrong direction, that we provide that resource that we were given when we were growing up.
Oh, I love it. Yes, this is a collaboration. This is a joint thing, and we have to. We're living in a society right now, Jamel, where it's let me mind my business. Like back in the day, it wasn't let me mind my business. It was on a block. If you on that porch doing something, that person walking down the street would say, "You better stop doing that before I go tell your mother." You know what I'm saying? We have lost a sense of community. We have lost, accountability for each other to say that, you know, let me mind my business. This is why our youth is falling through the cracks. Not only that, this is why our parents are falling through the cracks. The ones who are not supposed to or not doing what they're supposed to do, they need a level of accountability as an adult to say, I don't see you at the PTA meetings. But when it's a problem, you come and you defend your child, but you don't know what's going on. Like, teachers are afraid to discipline, and that's a problem I believe is in the school system, and we have to find a way to combat that. So that's just my tea on parenting. I have an 11-year-old. He's on the autism spectrum, so he's in special classes. But I see in other communities where I go, like, yo, you know, back in the day, you couldn't say that to a teacher. You know, we see these videos where the kids are in the teacher's face. Man, I would be so scared my mother was gonna come to that school, or like your grandmother was gonna come with her uniform. Like, yo, what are you doing? So we have to bring that back. Let's talk about resilience a little bit. So you're in politics, so it's almost like you're in competition with somebody for votes, right? You know what I'm saying? So how do you, and this is for the men who are listening and the women, but mostly for the Black men and the young Black boys who are listening. How do you bounce back from a loss? Because we're all going to, at some point, lose something, but how do we bounce back? How did you build up your resistance in politics? Because it's always, I need your vote, and sometimes it's not going to go in your favor.
Consistency, being consistent of who you are, being consistent in what you believe in, being consistent in what you want to do. And yeah, you're right. I've won every election that I've participated in, but there's some elections that you do lose when you're trying to get other people involved, and those races don't that turn out. But it's persistent. There's issues that I've fought on in politics. Some I've lost, but I remain persistent and consistent until the end. And we've got a great track record, but you can't give up. You know, there'll be some roadblocks. There'll be some people in the way. But as long as you remain consistent and persistent, I think that is very achievable at the end of the day. And so I've been able to just have a level focus on the goal, right? Here's the goal, stay focused and get to it, no matter what gets in the way. And that's just been one of the values that I've learned across the years. And it's helped me tremendously, is to stay focused and persistent.
Wow. If you just tuned in, you're tuned into Menher 2, a safe space where men get to share their truth. We are here with Jamel Holley, who is just doing a lot for his community, who is a stellar citizen, who is teaching, who is popping up in communities, who is boots on the ground, who is helping us to learn how to bring back the village. So let's go into what is so this is Menher 2, and the world around us. There's a lot of craziness going on with Black men. You know, Black men are being killed. Black men are being, the media is just showing all negativity. And I know a whole bunch of Black men who are doing positive things in their communities. What is the one misconception about Black men that you would like to just tell people, like, nah, that's not us?
We're not criminals. We're not bad people. You know, growing up, you know, luckily, as I told you, that I had the experience of, you know, when to be pulled over by police and what to do. But unfortunately, I have friends who have bad experiences with law enforcement. You know, oftentimes, sometimes as I was growing up, and even to my early 20s, I was profiled. Just a Black man driving or Black man walking around. And I think that the one thing I would say is that we're human just like everyone else. But there's been this systemic racism towards us. There's been this targeting towards us. And it's real, it's a reality, right? When, you know, you look at data and statistics, you see that Black males are largely arrested, largely convicted of crimes, largely targeted and profiled on a numerous of other crimes and activities. And it's really painful to look at it because we're not bad people. We're just humans like everyone else. And like, you know, case in point, when we were debating the legalization of marijuana here in the state of New Jersey, you know, you look at the statistics, and as I was pushing the bill through the legislature, you know, there was a lot of pushback from law enforcement. And as I'm testifying, I'm saying to the law enforcement officers who are coming up, we are 2 times, 3 times, in some cases, 4 times likely, Black males, to be arrested for low-level possessions of marijuana than our white counterparts. And so the officer responded to me, and I said, why is that? Why is that? I asked the question to him. He says, well, we need a study. Nah, bro, we don't need a study. I'm looking at the same FBI data, the same data that you use to promote why you need grants for your police department to do whatever programs and initiatives that you're seeking funding for from the federal government. I'm using your same FBI data to let you know that these statistics are real in our community. So why is that African-American males possessing the same amount of marijuana than our white counterparts? Why in some cases, in some community, it goes up to 4 times likely to be arrested than our white counterparts? And no, we don't need a study. The study is that we are profiled. And so as we were debating legalization of marijuana, right, I knew at some point it was going to get through. But for me, I looked at the legalization of marijuana, and the portion of what I was focused on is like, how do we get expungements? Right? How do we,
Right.
you know, this billion-dollar industry is coming into our state. I know it's coming. I'm okay with this billion-dollar industry coming to help, you know, drive the Jersey economy thrive. But we're gonna hold you up for a second, because people who look like me have been trenched into this, you know, criminal justice system because of our color. You're gonna provide expungements. You're also gonna provide those pending charges are going to be dismissed, and those individuals who have been convicted are going to have their records expunged, and it's going to be virtual. So it's not going to be this encumberness of paperwork that you have to go into the courts to file, you know, a petition of relief. And then also, if this billion-dollar industry is going to come in, because we've been hurt so long, you're going to provide a level of opportunity for people who look like me, and women and minorities and disabled veterans, that if we want to get into the marijuana business, there's going to be a real pathway, not this fake pathway that these other states have, but there's going to be a real pathway for minorities, women, and disabled veterans to get into the business, to get some of those licenses, to get those delivery licenses, to get those dispensary licenses, to get those cultivation licenses, to get all of the licenses that these other companies are going to be coming in and make their money, that we have a level playing field for those individuals who look like me. And those individuals who have been convicted of a crime of marijuana, that their old record would not hinder them from obtaining a license. So we removed that barrier in this whole conversation. And also what we did with the legalization of marijuana was the taxes. So we know that this is a billion-dollar industry. We know that you're going to be coming into the state to make the money. And again, I'm okay with the industry. What I was saying is that this tax dollars that are derived from the cell use is that you are going to reinvest those back into the communities that have been hardest hit on the war on drugs. So we negotiated 70% of the tax dollars from marijuana sales are going to go back to these impacted communities for educational programs, for job training programs, for social justice programs, all of the hurts and the harms that have prevented us from really becoming real productive citizens, that money is going to be reinvested back into these nonprofit community programs to help us get to where we want to be due to these harms. So the marijuana debate was a 6-year-long debate. But Trey, as I mentioned to you before, I was consistent and persistent in focusing on the issues that we were faced with as Black Americans, the expungements, the level of opportunity, the dollars that are going to be derived from the taxes, that they were not just going to just bring in marijuana and it was just going to be done away with, because at the end of the day, we live amongst this. Marijuana has been a part of our communities for a very long time. This is like nothing new, right? So, but you are going to repair those harms that will happen if you think you're going to bring this into our communities. And the Legislative Black Caucus members and the Latino caucus members band together. And, you know, as I mentioned to all of them, listen, it's 30 of us. It's 30 members in the Black and Latino caucus, right? I said they may come after me, they may pick one to go after, but I said if we all band together and stand on these issues and they can't pick us off, they can't go after all of us. So the Black Caucus and Latino Caucus stood very strong. We got expungements. We got the licenses for the people that look like us, and women and disabled veterans, the tax dollars as well. By far, and it's been highly reported due to the work that I've done and the members of our caucuses, we have by far the best social justice legalization of marijuana bill in the country right now. And then it's the hard work of myself and others who really just stood strong to ensure that the harms that was done to our communities is well on its way to be repaired just by this one policy issue.
I love it. You got my vote. Listen, and I'm not saying you got my vote because, you know, because marijuana is legal. I mean, to fight for not just, they think, you know, because people think Black people, we just want marijuana legalized because we want to smoke weed in the streets. No, it's bigger than that. And I'm glad that we have somebody like you in our corner to break it down to that police officer to say, excuse me, do you know who you're talking to? I'm not just some brother in your mind with his pants sagging down. No, I got facts and data. We don't need to do no study. The study been done. What are you talking about? You want to study? You want to study the study?
Study the study. It's just very clear. And you're right. Like, and there was this was the point for me. It wasn't about marijuana because, like I mentioned to you before, and I made this notation on several testimony opportunities, is that marijuana has been around in our community for a very long time. So it wasn't about marijuana for me. It was about how do we remove these societal barriers and these systematic barriers that have been put in place this entire time on this war on drugs. So how do we remove it? When you're legislating laws, you got to get to the root of the barrier, the systematic problem. So for me, when I see legislation and I focus on legislation, I go and dig deep on the barriers. Case in point, I know we got to wrap up, but we were debating immigration driver's license for immigrants, right? So I have a very, very popular, driven community in a certain portion of my district, right? We have a large immigration population driving into a certain portion of my district. So immigration driver's license was a topic, not only in my district, but throughout the other parts of the state as well. They wanted to, you know, give immigrant driver's license. So I was here for immigrant driver's license, right? In the middle of the road. But what I said was, I'm looking at a list over here of New Jersey residents, and I'm looking at a list of 250,000 New Jersey residents who are on a suspension driver's license list, where they're licensed legal residents, had their driver's license, they're suspended. Why is this list? So why is this 200? What is this list? Why are all these people suspended? So I reached out to the Department of Motor Vehicle. I reached out to Office of Legislative Services, who's a nonpartisan office that deals both with the Democrat side and the Republican side. They have to give us true and fact information without politics involved, the Office of Legislative Services. I said, can you pull this list for me and break this down? I want the gender, I want the race, and I want the reason. And I want to know where people live. So when I got the list back, it was majority males, majority Black, and most of the reasons were that they missed a payment for child support. So their driver's license was suspended. So I go to leadership and I say, I know your vote count on immigration of driver's license for immigrants is short. I know you need votes to get that done. I said, but I'm looking at a list here of folks who look like me, quite frankly, who don't look like me, who are legal residents, that there's a couple barriers here, a couple like minute barriers. You know, missing a child support payment or missing a ticket payment. What you gonna do for them in this discussion? I'll give you my vote for this, but you gotta remove this barrier here. So in New Jersey, if you miss a child support payment or you are on child support and it was previously used against you to suspend your driver's license, that barrier is no longer known. No judge, no agency can now suspend your driver's license in New Jersey if you miss child support, don't make child support payments. So those are the things that I try to focus on policy, right? Because there's policy here, but then there's those systematic barriers that have been put into place all over these years to stop and prevent us, because you got that black male who's on that driver's license suspension list and takes the risk because they got to go to work, right? They still job them while suspended, take the risk, go to work, gets caught, job them while suspended, and gets back into the system. So it was like a never ending for us. So it was a systematic that would just was spiraling. So where do we cut it? So that's been my focal point as I legislate, to remove those barriers, make us real human beings to be real productive, and stop putting these roadblocks in the way that have been used against us all of these years, and make us really productive citizens of this state. So I don't mind immigrant driver's license, but my brothers who are legal residents, who are on the list, remove that barrier for them so they can be real productive citizens. So that's what I try to do, Trey. Those are just examples of how I legislate and try to help our community out. And, you know, legislative leadership are not always fond of my issues or always fond of my stances, but if you don't come from where I come from, you'll never understand. And so I remind them that I am here in the State House. I am here elected by the people to remind you that we exist and our issues that we come from exist. And if you're going to push other issues and other matters and other policy, I'm okay with that. But here are issues and policy matters and barriers that I need to remove from the communities that I represent here as well.
I am Team Holley. I'm about to get, y'all got t-shirts? I saw the signs.
Yeah, we have t-shirts.
I saw the signs are available. I got a t-shirt. I need a t-shirt right away. Because listen,
we'll get you a t-shirt. We'll get you a t-shirt.
Yes, please. A lot of people talk the talk, but when you are in the trenches, when you are being judged first by the others, and then by your own brothers who are thinking that you're not, because they don't see, they're not in there. So they thinking, oh, look at him, he in this place and he ain't riding for us. You know what I'm saying? I just want them to understand President Holley is riding for us. Let me just say that. We speak things into existence to wherever you may be going at. He riding for us. He ain't just saying, okay, we're gonna work for these immigrants. And no, like you said, we want everybody to be treated fairly. But before you could treat the people coming from other countries fairly, we was born here. What about us? So I love you. Like, yes. Listen, let's do this. So let's talk about what you want your community to know right now. Because I know that you have you're running, you have an election going on right now for state senate. Yes. What do you want your community to know about what you're doing, what you're going to be doing, and how can we support you?
And thank you, Trey. This is a very important election. Usually elections that are off season, and when we say off season, it's not a presidential election. A lot of people come out for the presidential elections, and after the presidential elections, they drop off. They don't participate in the off years. And so this, for me, is a very important election because it is an off year from presidents. And I am running for state senate in District 20 for Roselle, Elizabeth, Union, and Hillside. I am going up against the incumbent who has been a career politician for a very long time. And so I stepped up and stepped out because what I saw in the New Jersey State Senate was not clear representation of our community. Now, why in 2021 here in Union County, there has not been one African-American state senator. Now, I'm not saying because I'm Black that this has to happen. What I'm saying is that we are living in a time where legislative leadership and policy matters and elected officials are not achieving what we need for our community. So do we continue to elect people and put them in the office and not have our issues and needs addressed? Or do we step up and step out and take on that risk and be elected officials ourselves at that level? And so I stepped up and stepped out and said, hey, yes, I do want to run for state senate. Yes, I'm an African-American. Yes, you've never had an African-American state senator here in Union County. And the issues that need to be addressed in the Senate are not being addressed because people who look like me are not in that room to ensure that let them know that we exist here in this district here in Union County. And so for me, it was easy to make that decision because I live in a minority majority community. But what is most important is that we have to treat this election as if it was a presidential election. You can't drop off on this year because it's not a presidential election. This election here in Union County is most important for our future here and in this state. And so I'm running. I've got a great team behind me. The election is on June 8th, but the African-American community, the Latino community, and quite frankly, the other parts of the community need to come out because this election, this Senate seat, has a direct effect on the kitchen table topics, not presidential. This election here in the state Senate is issues that you are confronted with every single day. So why not elect someone who knows who you are, who lives amongst you, who understands what you're going through, and who can help you with more of your everyday needs and your matters than any other city, state, seat in this county. So I'm running, and it's been great, Trey. We've got a lot of momentum, but the problem that I think that we need to push, and you mentioned, is that we have to come out and vote. Like, it's very important. And there's no reason why individuals cannot vote, right? So I give you a case in point of another law I did. There are 88,000 individuals here in the state of New Jersey who are on parole or probation. In the past, if you were on parole or probation, you wouldn't be able to register to vote or vote. My law, along with my other colleagues, sponsored a bill that removed that barrier. So if you're on parole or probation, you can vote now in New Jersey. So I live in a high minority district where we have a lot of parole or probation individuals. I need them to participate in the electoral process. That's why we wanted to remove that barrier. It's not about just me being the first African-American, but it's about me getting into that Senate room to let them know that we exist here in Union County. And in Elizabeth, Roselle, Union, and Hillside, we voted for the same individuals over and over and over and over again. And not a lot of things have changed. So at what point do you change it? But they have never had a real opportunity to put, to vote for someone like me. And so now they do. And so I've been out there for the last several months, Trey, knocking on doors, hosting events, getting our message out there, because this is really important. This is really important for our community. And this is really important in terms of leadership to ensure that we put people in office and we put people in those rooms where those hard decisions are being made, that someone like them exists in that room to either raise that hand or put down that hand or say that green light must go, or you got to pump the brakes right here. Because all too often there's policy changes that go on that directly affect our lives that are happening, and we don't even know about it. And I want to be in that room to ensure that the issues and the policy matters that are going to be pushed as an agenda in this state, that for the people that I represent, that they have a seat at the table, and it's known that a person like me is in that room to ensure that they know people like us exist.
Wow. Listen, the definition of insanity, people is doing the same thing over and over again, except expecting a different result. We have to change some things. You are in this community. You don't see things changing. That means there needs to be a different face at the table. And like Jamel said, not because he's Black, but because he's qualified. Not because he's Black, but because he understands the same struggles. Not because he's Black, because he's actually told you 3 policies that he's changed, that he is doing the work. So let's change things. Like said Jamel Holley for state senate on June 8th. The one thing he said he needs from you guys, he asked for one thing. This is your call to action, because sometimes as Black people and Latino people and brown people and people in these communities, we don't know what to do. But today, Jamel said, all I need you to do is go out and exercise your right to vote. Just go stand online. To those who are on parole, probation, you can vote. Maybe you didn't know, because you don't know what you don't know, Jamel. But he has just freed you to say, we went to bat for you, for you to be able to vote, to use your voice, to be able to vote. So let's not fail him, because he did not fail us. You in New Jersey, if you are on parole or probation, I need you brothers who are listening under the sound of my voice to understand that you can vote. So let's get out there on June 8th and vote, and get something different, because clearly things are not changing the way that they are, because we don't have somebody representing us at the table. So let's get Jamel at the table, folks, because he is changing things in a mighty way. So I just want to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can vote, if you are on social media, where they can follow you and friend you and just support you.
And thank you so much, Trey, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity as we wrap up. All my social media handles are at JamelHolley. So all my handles are at Jamel Holley on all our social media platforms. You can also log on to jamelholley.com, and it gives you our history, our track record, the bills I've signed into law, our latest activity on the campaign, and all my legislative accomplishments. And on June 8th, here in Union County, the 4 towns that will get me to the state senate are Roselle, Elizabeth, Union, and Hillside, New Jersey. And we are on column B, at the top of the ticket. And you can press column B and go all the way down for our team, and to ensure that you have true representation in the State House and around the community here in Union County and the state of New Jersey. So thank you again, Trey, for this wonderful opportunity. It was a great discussion. Hopefully I'll come back on soon after the election and talk about the next steps, right? Because this next steps, not just the election, right? It's next steps after the election and all the other policy issues that I want to continue to address. So thank you again. It's at Jamel Holley or jamelholley.com on all your social media platforms. And thank you again, Trace. It was a wonderful Monday morning conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Menher 2, a safe space where men get to share their truth. Remember what I tell you at the end of all my broadcasts. You deserve the best. Yes, I'm talking to you. You deserve the best. Now go get it. Peace and blessings. And remember Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. I'll see you next time. Peace and blessings.